So 1.3 is like everything else in all of Unit 1, North Carolina Real Estate Commission rules and license law. And specifically 1.3 deals with the rules around the two most important positions as far as the Real Estate Commission is concerned for brokers to have in North Carolina. Either a broker in charge or something called a qualifying broker, which I know we have not mentioned yet. So when we talk about the broker in charge, we use that terminology a lot. We talk about the BIC and what their job is, what they do, what they're responsible for. The real truth, though, is that not every broker will need to have a broker in charge. And then this one is one that gets missed a lot by people. Not every firm needs to have a broker in charge. It is not going to be true that every broker, you should be able to kind of sort of answer that question already. Which brokers don't need to have a broker in charge?
Non-provisional.
Non-provisional.
Good. Non-provisional brokers don't necessarily need to have a broker in charge. And we're going to talk about when they might, how they're going to help make that decision for themselves. But even more importantly, not every firm has to have a broker in charge. Say that with me. Not every
Not every firm needs to.
Not every firm has to have a broker in charge.
Good. But this statement down here still reigns supreme. Are most brokers going to have a broker in charge?
Yes.
And are most firms going to have a broker in charge?
Yes.
Yes. And you will hopefully see why most of them will before we're done this afternoon. So we know, don't forget this for the test, because it's going to show up in multiple questions in multiple ways. We know that a provisional broker always needs to have a broker in charge if their license is going to be on what status?
Active.
So if that provisional broker is using their license, if that provisional broker is representing clients, if that provisional broker is doing anything related to real estate activities, and they plan to get paid for it, then they can't do that without a broker in charge. But non-provisional brokers have choices. Non-provisional brokers actually have a number of routes to utilizing their license with and without a broker in charge. So probably the most common path, I would say the most common path is right here. This is the path that Seth has chosen. This is the path that Leslie has chosen. This is the path that my mom has chosen. This is the path that the vast majority of people, in fact, I just looked yesterday to give you all some clue here. Let me see if I can pull this back up while I'm talking. I looked yesterday in the Real Estate Commission's most recent bulletin, and they have licensee counts in there. Let me see if I can pull up the most recent bulletin and see what you can tell from that, if you can tell anything from it. And I think you will be able to. Let me pull this up here. Yeah, here we go. All right, now let me change my share for you. So I want you to take a look at these stats from the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. And this is as of August 1st of this year. Look how many total licensees there are in the state. That's a big number, isn't it? 118,000 licenses issued by the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. Hey, y'all want to do something fun?
Ever?
No, that's current. That's
how much they've this year.
That's current right now. So ones that have been renewed this year, current licenses.
Got it.
There are 118,463 current licenses. So y'all want to have some fun with math? Type that number into your calculator, 118,463 times how much does it cost to renew each and every one of those licenses, folks?
45.
$45. You are looking at $5,330,000 just in renewal fees alone
Damn.
on an annual basis, just to renew those licenses. Okay, everybody with me so far on that?
Yep.
Of those 118,000 licenses, there are 103,000 that are going to people. So now you know we've talked about the difference between broker license and firm license, right? So 103,000 of those licenses are people. There are 14,827 real estate firms in North Carolina. Does that mean there are 14,827 BICs in North Carolina?
No.
No.
No,
Because not every firm has a what?
big.
BIC. And by the way, not every BIC has a firm. You can be a BIC and not have a firm because firms are what?
Companies.
They are
Companies.
companies. They are corporate entities. So what that means is there are 14,827 LLCs, corporations, partnerships that are doing business in North Carolina and have a firm real estate license. Does that make sense for everybody?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So if you go down here and you look at that, of those 103,000 that have renewed their license for brokers, how many of them are on active status, folks?
73,388.
73,000, right? So that means we have over 30,000 people who have a current license that is inactive. Does everybody remember what that means? So current, what have they done?
They paid.
They paid.
Yeah.
They're inactive, so most likely they either have not taken their
Continuing
licensing
education.
or they're a provisional broker who doesn't have a BIC. As a matter of fact, do we know exactly how many of those folks there are? Look down there. 6,403 provisional brokers who do not have a what?
Big.
A BIC. And so they are inactive. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay.
Yes.
And if you notice, the number of brokers in charge does not match the number of firms. As a matter of fact, there are more BICs than there are what?
Firms.
Firms. So that should tell you right away, break this association in your brain that every firm has a BIC and every BIC has a firm. They're not the same thing. Does that make sense for everybody when you kind of see it in numbers?
Yes.
Now, do they go together a lot? Is it very often, okay, you have a firm and that firm has a BIC?
Yes,
Yes.
but do not get confused that, you know what I'm
That they
saying.
have to be the same. They're not.
Now, brokers in charge are like managers, correct?
That is correct. A broker in charge is simply a manager. So here's basically the broker in charge rule. Wherever you have two or more agents working together, you're going to have a what?
Yeah.
Big.
A broker in charge. Now, that's not the only rule about it, but that is the biggest thing. Whenever you got two or more agents working together, one of them has to be the one that the Real Estate Commission recognizes as being the broker who is what?
Broker in
In
charge.
In
charge.
charge of that group. Does that make sense for everybody?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, there's another path that is less common. This is the path I have taken to activating my license. I have created a company, created a firm, and I have declared myself the what?
Big.
The BIC of that firm. That's my path to active licensure. There is yet a third path that somebody could take to licensure, to active status as a non-provisional broker. And that is, they don't hang their license with another BIC at a firm. They don't create a company and declare themselves BIC, but they just say, I'm a BIC of myself as a what?
Sole proprietor.
Sole proprietor.
Proprietor. I don't have a company. I'm just BIC of myself as a sole proprietor. Does that make sense for everybody as a path that somebody can take?
Yes.
And then finally,
Yes.
Probably the least popular option on here, and we're going to talk about why it's the least popular one here in just a minute, but I want you to piece together why it might be the least popular. I'm not going to tell you why, I'm going to let you piece it together. This is the least popular route to active status. These are the non-provisional brokers who are going to operate without any supervision at all. Not only do they not have somebody else supervising them, they're not even willing to supervise who?
Themselves.
Themselves. They are operating without a BIC completely. Not only do they not have a BIC who's not themselves, they haven't even gone my route, which is I have a BIC and it's me. They're not willing to do that. They are completely operating without a BIC. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mhm.
Okay, so you got 4 different paths there. The most popular by far, affiliate with somebody else as your broker in charge under their firm. That's by far the most popular path. Okay, then you have the people who create their own firm, their own company, and declare themselves broker in charge of that company. Then you have the people who don't want to create a company, but just want to supervise themselves and declare themselves, I am BIC of myself. Now leave me alone. I'm not BIC of a company. I'm BIC of what?
Myself.
Myself, me, myself, and I. And I'm a sole proprietor. Okay. And then finally, the least popular option, believe it or not, the sole proprietor option is not the least popular. The least popular is I'm active, but I don't have a BIC. Everybody with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about why each one of these choices might be made. And a lot of that has to do with what you're allowed to do with a BIC and what you're not allowed to do without a BIC. Everybody with me so far?
Yeah.
So what is the broker in charge responsible for? This is another way of saying, folks, what you can and cannot do if you don't have a BIC. Brokers in charge are responsible for 3 primary functions. Here are the 3 main things that the BIC must do according to the Real Estate Commission, or that you must have a BIC to do in order to do. Number 1, the BIC must supervise anytime 2 or more people are working together. So that's another way of saying, if you want to work with someone else, you must do so under the supervision of a what?
Yeah.
BIC.
Of a BIC. Number 2, the broker in charge is responsible for supervising the handling of any trust money. Flip that around. If you don't have a BIC, you can't what?
Collect funds.
Handle trust
trust
money.
money.
That makes sense for everybody?
Yes.
And number 3, and this one's going to be the whopper for folks. You need a broker in charge in order to advertise real estate services in any way whatsoever. That means advertising property. That means advertising that you personally offer real estate services. That means any type of advertisement whatsoever involving real estate services must be supervised by a what?
BIC.
A BIC. That makes sense for everybody?
So there's no point to the last form of non-provisional broker. Because if you can't advertise, how are you gonna do that?
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Because Elizabeth her brain is in exactly the right spot. I don't know where her heart is, but her brain's in the right spot, right? No, but seriously, is it going to be hard to imagine how having a license and having it be on active status is very useful if you can't do this one right here, really, and particularly that one right there? Isn't that going to be the deal killer for most people right there?
Yes.
I mean, you tell non-provisional brokers, you don't need a BIC. You can operate without a BIC. Why bother having a BIC? And listen, there's a clear upside to not having a BIC. If Seth goes out tomorrow and operates without a BIC, which he can do, does he have anybody to tell him what to do?
Nope.
No,
No.
he doesn't have to worry about it. He can do whatever he wants to. His rules, because he got no supervision. Does
But
he
he
have?
doesn't have anybody looking out for his best interest either.
He also doesn't have anybody looking out for his best interest. But does he have to split the money?
No.
No, it's going to be paid directly to what?
That.
Directly to Seth. If he doesn't have a broker in charge, does that make sense for everybody? And
Yeah.
see, when people hear that, they're like, "Yeah, buddy."
They think it's the best thing ever.
And by the way, Seth, on your way out the door, make sure you burn all your business cards. Make sure you delete any signatures on your email that say real estate broker. Make sure you take down your business Facebook page because you can't have that anymore.
Okay, okay.
make
It's just
sure
an
you-
example.
Make sure you don't tell anybody anywhere that you have a real estate license because that's all considered what, folks?
Advertising.
Advertising. Gonna be real hard to have a career that way, ain't it?
Yeah.
So why, right here, does this immediately tell you why most people, even when they don't have to, choose to have a broker in charge?
Yes.
I'm assuming retired but wants to collect referral fees would fall into this category.
There you go, Grant.
The only
Now,
way.
Grant is really thinking outside the box. Are there going to be people who've worked in the business for 20, 30, 40 years that have built up their business that don't need to advertise, that just want to keep their license active so that they can refer business to other people? Does it make sense for them just to be active with no BIC? What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because in fact, we have one that takes, I love her. She takes our CE classes every year because remember, you have to take CE to stay active, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What is she, 82 or 83 now, Seth?
She's got a 5-digit license number, put it that way.
Like her license number is like 22,000. Mine's 249,000. That tells
Mine's
you, I mean,
298,470.
right, yours is 298,000 and hers is 22,000. That's how long she's had. I mean, she's like 82. Folks, I always ask her every year. Her name's Faye. I said, Faye, you still coming back, huh? She said, honey, I got to take these classes. She said, this is the most productive day I have all year long. And I said, you still getting some referrals? You know how much she made last year, folks? $116,000 in referral fee.
Referrals.
She doesn't have a broker in charge, so there's no splitting of that money. She doesn't advertise her real estate services. She doesn't go out and handle money for people. She doesn't work with anybody else. Does she have any need of a BIC?
Nope.
No. And I said, $116,000. She said, yeah, they just called me. She said, they've been calling me all their life. Why wouldn't they keep, and they keep calling me. And she said, I ain't gonna tell them to stop calling me. She said, whenever they need to sell something, when their kids need to sell something, when their grandkids need to buy something, they call Faye. And honey, I love her. She said, and honey, I will hook them up. I'll hook them up with one of y'all young people, let y'all do all the work and send me that referral fee, baby. That's what she says. And you gotta love her, right? Because that is the perfect use of the active license without a broker in charge. Does that make sense for everybody?
She is smart.
Yep.
But that doesn't make sense for me or Seth because I'm actively marketing property. Well, first of all, to put a sign in front of a property, is that advertising?
Yep.
Yes.
Right there. As soon as I want to list a property, I need a what?
BIC.
I need a BIC. So guess what? I found one. He's an asshole, but I found one. Seth found the same one. And he agrees with that opinion. Okay. Does everybody see now why most people choose to have a broker in charge, though, even though they don't necessarily have to by rule? Is everybody with me? Okay.
Mhm.
You're going to be tested on this. On the state specific section, you're going to be tested on this. Taj, we're going to talk about Taj asked what are the certifications to become a broker in charge, and we're going to talk about that. But I just want to make sure we get the rule nailed down first of the things that would require. So as an example, if you're not doing any of these three things, you do not need a broker in charge. So hypothetical, let me give you a hypothetical right here, okay? Let's say that Faye, the lady I'm talking about, buyer comes to her and says, Faye, I'm thinking about buying a house and I need your help. And Faye says, well, honey, I'm kind of retired, but I'll be glad to refer you to somebody. Number one, can Faye do that?
Yes.
Yes. And can Faye get paid a referral fee on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, don't answer from your gut. I want you to look at this rule that's staring you in the face. What if the buyer says, now, Faye, I appreciate that, but God, I'd really rather have you. Are you sure you can't just come out this one time out of retirement and work with me and help me represent me buy that house? So here's the question. Can Faye, as an active broker, don't answer from your gut, look at the rule. Can Faye, as an active broker, represent that buyer in that transaction without a broker in charge?
No.
No.
No,
Those of you that are saying
Yes.
no, I want to know where in the rule it
Yes.
says she can't do that.
work together with affiliates, with other licensees.
That's another licensee. That's not a client.
Oh, well, but don't you have to work with another licensee to do the transaction?
Well, that's when I say work with them, I mean in the same organization. I don't mean like talk to them, cooperate with them on the other side of the transaction.
Well, that's why I said no, so,
Well, now that I've said that's not going to count, can she do that?
yes.
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 Yes, she can. She can.
She can't put a sign in the yard.
There you go. So that's what I was going to say. Flip it around. Seller comes to her and says, Faye, are you sure you won't list my house for me? Can she do that?
Yes.
List.
No.
No.
That's
No.
advertising.
Put a sign or
What's the
can't
first step
advertise.
with listing a property? You market it, right? You advertise it.
Mhm.
Can't do that without a bid.
No.
That's why these rules are so tough, folks. You start trying to go from your gut, like, you got to look at the rule. You got to work your way through the rule and say, before I say no, I better see where it says she can't do that. Everybody with me on that?
Yep.
By the same token, could Faye refer that buyer over to somebody else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or can Faye have a website where buyers can come and look at values in the area so that Faye can refer them over to agents?
Yes.
Yes.
No, that's
No, no.
advertising. Yes, you can.
No, she can't. No,
What's
she
the
can't.
website?
advertise.
Cannot do any
folks.
advertise.
No,
Advertise.
she's advertising.
The website's an advertisement. See, you can't key on like referral. Yes. You got to look at the whole picture. Is anything she's doing going to violate that rule? And the website would be a form of what?
Advertising.
Advertising, and that can't be done without a broker in charge. Okay. You got, it's going to be more nitpicky than you expect. Don't sleep on this license law stuff. They're going to be nitpicky. I'm telling you, they will. They really will. So what do we consider advertising in North Carolina? Basically anything, a business card, email signatures, even if I just put on my email, licensed real estate broker, in my signature line, that's considered an advertisement. Now I can do that because I have a who?
Broker in charge.
I have a broker in charge.
That's you on.
I have a broker in charge. Real estate websites, talking to people and saying, hey, would you like to hire me? That's all advertising. Signs, joining the Association of Realtors, joining the MLS, that's a type of marketing yourself. Can't do any of that without a broker in charge. So those people that are on active status with no broker in charge, basically they're relegated to accepting referral fees like Faye does. But not only that, they have to pretty much rely on their referral fees to just fall in their lap, don't they?
Mhm.
Because if they're doing anything to try to get the referral fees, that's advertising, and they're going to need. Now, reminder about the advertising rule, because we talked about it earlier, so that the ad is not a blind ad. What do we have to do to make sure it's not a blind ad? There are two options. Either
Name your firm.
Put the name of the firm or the
name of the
name of the
broker in charge or the name of the firm. So here's my question. Is an email signature an advertisement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, if it says anything about real estate broker, call me for your
Mhm.
needs. Now, if it just says Seth Thomas, that's not a real estate advertisement. But if it says Seth Thomas, broker, is that a real estate advertisement?
Yes.
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 So Seth puts at the bottom of his emails, Seth Thomas, broker. Does he now have to put something else on that email as well?
Either
Yeah.
your
Yes.
Broker in charge or the firm name.
He's either got to put
Sure.
my name on that email as well, or he's got to put Trav Talks LLC on that email as well. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
So if he's going to put broker, he should probably put broker Trav Talks LLC on there.
Yeah.
Because that brings him back into compliance with the rule. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mhm.
Mhm.
The minute he puts broker on there, he's out of compliance because he's not saying broker with who. Well, who do you work for? When he puts Trav Talks LLC, now he's back in compliance. Everybody all right with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the blind ad rule. As far as affiliating goes, affiliating, we use that word, or hanging our license. First of all, there is no physical license to hang, folks. You get a physical license, but we don't actually physically hang it anywhere. I always laugh when people think that, they'll get you on a test question with that. The license must be physically hung in the office. No. Think about a Keller Williams office, folks. What wall do they have where they have 300 licenses hanging on the wall all at the same time? No. We do not physically hang your license anyway. You physically hang it wherever you want to hang it, or don't. I don't know where mine is. I have no idea.
One's in the closet.
Well, mine's so old at this point, it's probably, the paper's probably falling apart. But but yes, there are professional licensure like cosmetology, or barbers, where you have to physically display the license. We are not one of them. We have electronic pocket cards that we should have access to display whenever we are asked for them. And in fact, I've shown mine before. I think I've had it on the first day of class, actually, in this slideshow, I believe. Didn't I have it in there? Let me go back. Yeah, right there. Oops, right there. That's what a real estate pocket card looks like in North Carolina. It's just a digital thing that you download from the Real Estate Commission's website, and it gets updated every year. So that just gives you an idea. We don't have to physically hang our license. So affiliating with a firm literally just means sending in a form saying that you work for this office, that you work under the supervision of this broker in charge. There is no fee to affiliate with a firm. You pay all the fees to renew your license and that sort of thing. There's no additional fee to pay to affiliate. This is a rule you will be tested on for sure, because it's a new rule. This rule's only been in effect for less than 2 years. This rule made me really glad that I no longer run a big real estate firm. I got out of running a big real estate firm before this rule went into effect, and I literally laughed when this rule went into effect, because I thought, thank goodness I'm not doing this anymore. We have a rule now, and you're going to be tested on it, that says in North Carolina, a real estate licensee must turn every document that is signed by a client or customer over to every page of every document over to their broker in charge no later than 3 calendar days after the document has been signed and in your possession. Now, I want you to think about it, folks. If you hold an open house and 15 buyers come to that open house and you have first substantial contact with 10 of them, aren't you going to have 10 documents that need to be turned over to your broker in charge just from that one open house?
Mhm.
Yeah. How about if you have a buyer who you end up making 15 offers for to try to get them under contract on something? Isn't every one of those offers a signed document?
Yeah,
Yes.
And so how many of them you going to have to turn over to your broker in charge?
all of them.
Or
All of them. Before this rule went into effect, which offers do you think we turned into our offices?
The final offer.
Only the one that got accepted. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And that was the problem. The real estate commission would come in, they would look in a file, and the only offer that was in there was the one that was eventually accepted. And they're like, well, what about the other 10 that they didn't get accepted? And I'm like, well, we don't have them. We don't know where they are. And we weren't required to have them. Now we are. So is everybody good on this rule? 3 calendar days, not business days, don't count holidays. Every day counts. Every day counts. 1, 2, 3. So today is today really September 1st? Oh my goodness. Today is September 1st, Wednesday, September 1st. So if Seth were to go out today and present the working with real estate agents disclosure to somebody and get it signed, tomorrow would be day 1. You start counting on the next day. Okay. So Thursday would be day 1. Friday would be day 2. By Saturday, he would have to have given me a copy, either paper or digital, of that document. That makes sense for everybody?
How do you work that in your office? Do you have like a folder on your desk? I mean, how do they?
We just do digital stuff. We do digital documents, everything, everybody, we share a OneDrive folder, and everybody shares them. And so it's real easy for us because it's just 4 of us.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I have access to their folder if I need to take a look at anything. Everybody okay with this rule? Because it's going to show up on the test. It's pretty straightforward rule, but it will be tested. All right. So look at this question right here, because it's all about the broker in charge rule. Okay. It says John's a licensed non-provisional broker who's not affiliated with a broker in charge, nor has he declared himself a sole proprietor broker in charge. His best friend Amy approaches him with a desire to sell her home and asks John to help. What can John legally do for Amy? Question: can John list her house for sale? What do you think?
No.
No.
No. I agree with that, because John does not have a what?
Beck.
No BIC. No BIC, no advertising. And listing a property for sale is advertising. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
So how about this question? Can John refer Amy to another broker who will list the property and pay John a referral fee?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because he does have a license and it is on active status. He can certainly do that. Is everybody okay with those 2 answers to those questions?
Yes.
Okay, that's applying the broker in charge rule. So look at this. Can Samuel run a referral website? Samuel is a non-provisional broker whose license is on active status, though he's not affiliated with a broker in charge, including himself. He has only paid referral fees as he refers all real estate activities to other brokers in the state. He maintains a public website named sellrdu.com where people can ask for their information about the value of their home. And Samuel refers all these questions to other active brokers. So is Samuel's website within North Carolina Real Estate Commission rules?
No.
No, because he's what?
Running a website.
Advertising.
He's advertising with no BIC. Without a BIC. Everybody okay with that? He cannot do that. He cannot advertise without a broker in charge. So that's going to be a violation. So now let's get to Taj's question from earlier. BIC eligibility. What do we mean when we say that phrase? BIC eligibility just refers to the ability of somebody to step into the role of BIC when necessary. That's all it means. Seth has the ability to step into this role if necessary, because Seth meets the requirements of a broker in charge in North Carolina. I know most of you are asking how on earth low the standards could be if that's the kid. No, I'm kidding.
I will kill you.
Not thinking that at all. No, the standards are based on experience. So let's look at the rule and talk about this rule and how to apply it. Okay. First of all, the BIC must be what status as far as their license goes?
Non-provisional.
Non-provisional, and hopefully that just goes without saying. Obviously, you can't be in charge of other people if you're still a provisional broker yourself. That's just kind of, self-explanatory. And then also their license must be in what status?
Active.
Active. Okay. Now, we have a minimum experience requirement. 2 years of experience, 2 years of full-time brokerage experience. Here's the thing though, and this is the catch of the rule. Yeah, everybody, you with me? You hearing me? Listen up. It has to be recent experience. You could have 20 years of experience and not be qualified to be a BIC in North Carolina if the experience is not recent experience.
2 years.
Or you can have only 2 years of experience and be qualified. Seth has 3 years of experience and he's qualified because his experience is recent experience. Everybody with me so far?
Uh-huh.
And so the question is simply, how recent does it need to be? Now, remind me, how much experience? Before we get to the how recent, how much experience does he need?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years. You need 2 years. That's why the finger's on the screen. I'm not telling you to hang loose. It don't matter. And I'll show you what I mean by giving you this or this, whatever. Okay. You need how many years worth of experience?
2.
2. Here's how recent it needs to be. Sometime within the last 5 years. Within the last 5 years. So from the time you send that form in, how far back in time is the Real Estate Commission going to look for your experience?
5 years.
Year.
5 years. Do you need 5 years of experience?
No.
No.
2
Do you
years.
even need to be licensed for all 5 of those years?
No.
Oh.
No. You just need within that previous 5 years to have totaled up how much real estate experience?
2 years.
2 years.
Two.
So Seth has had a real estate license for 3 years and has been actively involved with real estate full-time all 3 years of that. Does he meet the broker in charge qualification rule? Does he have a minimum of 2 years of real estate experience within the last 5-year period?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, he's qualified. Now, so why do I have the hands here with the, peace sign or deuces or the hang loose? Here's the best way to think of 2 out of 5, folks. You got 5 fingers, right? It doesn't matter what 2 of them you hold up. If it's years 2 and 3 out of the last 5, does that meet the rule?
Yes.
Yes. If it's years 1 and 4 out of the last 5, does that meet the rule?
Yes.
Yes.
If it's years 1 and 5 with a 4-year break in the middle, does that meet the rule?
Yes.
Right? If it was all years 4 and 5, so you haven't done any real estate at all in the last 3 years, but years 4 and 5 you did. Does that meet the rule?
Yes.
Any 2 out of the last 5. Do you see how the hand thing helps?
Yes.
Right? Any 2 out of the last 5 works. Everybody okay with that?
You have to be full-time, meaning what is full, explain.
So I love that you asked that question. They let you define full-time for yourself. They
Okay.
just tell you the rule says full-time, so don't lie. How do you figure? Now they give you an estimate. They say 2,000 hours is full-time. So, but I don't know if anybody punching a time clock in this job. So it would be, Seth, have you been full-time for 2 out of the last 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see y'all see how full-time he is right now, right? Laid back. All right, this is
Having fun.
full-time brokerage experience to Seth right here.
Trust me, it is way more than it looks.
It's the honor system. Is everybody okay with that?
Okay.
So I can basically tell you from a practical standpoint, if you've had your license for at least how long when you submit the thing saying you want to be BIC?
2 years.
At least 2 years, and the license has been on active status for at least 2 out of the last 5 years.
Yes.
Are they going to believe you when you say you were full-time?
Yes.
Yeah, they don't have any choice. They don't have any choice. There is no number of transactions. There's no, you have to have done this part of the business. It's literally just, they're going to ask you a question. Have you accumulated 2 years of real estate experience within the last 5 years? Yes or no? And if you say yes, congratulations, you're a BIC. And by the way, you become a BIC, guess when?
As soon as you send the
When
form.
we finish, we got the
You
license.
send the form in. Boom. Could Seth be the BIC of this firm by 4 o'clock this afternoon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If he sends the form to the real estate commission, he's the BIC. Just as fast as that.
So different than California, sorry.
Yeah. Does that make sense for everybody how they do it though?
Mhm.
Tyler wants you to do like a hostile takeover stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's coming.
Now, one thing I do think is going to probably show up on the test is they're going to ask you about the 12-hour course, because there is a 12-hour course that you have to take the first time you declare yourself as a BIC. However, it's the one time that you can take the class after the fact if you want to. Look at option number 1 on the left. Now, option number 2 on the right is what you would think of more traditionally. You've got the experience, you take the 12-hour course, and then you declare yourself a BIC. That makes sense as a flow, right? But look at the one on the left. The one on the left says you have the experience, declare yourself the BIC. Guess what? You become the what?
The BIC.
The BIC right away. And you haven't yet taken the what?
The course.
The course.
Class.
You have 120 days to take the class after you declare yourself a BIC. So you can do it before or after. But if you do it after, you only have 120 days after to take it. Why do they have this rule? What if the BIC is incapacitated all of a sudden? I mean, so like think of Seth, he has not taken the 12-hour course. What if all of a sudden I was in the hospital and incapacitated and we needed somebody to take over the firm? We don't want to have to wait for him to take a class. Does it make sense that we need the ability to send that form in and make him the BIC right now, today, and then we'll deal with taking the class in the next 120 days? And that's why the rule works that way. So that the firm doesn't get shut down.
Yeah.
Taj, does that answer your question about the requirements for becoming a broker in charge? I know you were the one that asked.
Yes, it does. But I had a different question going back previously to advertisement. Say, for instance, Seth has Seth LLC, who also works for Trav Talks Real Estate.
Yep.
On his advertisement, can he put Seth's LLC as the firm, or does he need to put Seth's LLC and Trav Talks Real Estate?
He can only put Seth's LLC as the firm if there is a broker in charge of Seth's LLC. That's what's going to make the decision of whether or not. Taj just asked a wonderful question. Everybody should pay attention to this question. What if Seth decides to create his own LLC? That's a firm, right? Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So can Seth, number one, be affiliated with 2 firms as a non-provisional broker? Can he be affiliated with 2 firms?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So let's say he's going to stay affiliated with Trav Talks LLC, but he's also going to be affiliated with Seth Real Estate LLC because he wants his commissions paid to the new LLCs. Everybody with me so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
He does not need to have a broker in charge for Seth's Real Estate LLC
No.
Right.
because Seth's Real Estate LLC is not going to be having more than one person work together, because who's the only broker affiliated with Seth's Real Estate LLC?
Seth is the only one.
That's the only one. Seth's Real Estate LLC is not going to handle trust money.
No.
If Seth handled trust money, he would handle it on behalf of Trav Talks LLC, not on behalf of Seth's Real Estate LLC. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mhm.
And Seth's advertisements are all going to say what firm name on it?
Trav Talks.
Travis Talks.
Trav Talks LLC, because that's the one that has a what?
Big.
A
Big.
broker in charge. Now, Seth comes to me and he goes, but I want to put my company on the sign too. And I say, you can, but you've got to become the what of that company before you can do that.
Big.
Broker in charge. So at that point, Seth would also have to become a broker in charge just to put Seth's Real Estate LLC on his business cards, because he would then be advertising for Seth's Real Estate LLC. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
Yep.
Got it.
So like as an example, Leslie has done exactly that. Leslie has an LLC named NatWin Real Estate LLC. Now, NatWin Real Estate LLC does not represent clients, doesn't handle trust money, is basically there just for me to pay her commissions. But she came to me a long time ago, and it's named for her children, Natalie and Owen. And she came to me a long time ago and she said the kids would get a real thrill out of seeing their names on the sign. Can I put NatWin on the sign? I said, sure you can, if you're willing to be the what?
Vic.
The BIC of NatWin Real Estate. And so she declared herself BIC of NatWin Real Estate. And so her signs now say Trav Talks, and at the bottom say NatWin. She can have both because both firms have a BIC. Therefore, both can advertise. Is everybody following with that?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
She put both because Trav Talks has a bigger reputation.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's why she doesn't want just hers. She wants mine and hers. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. She wants the, you know, the notoriety that comes with my name for whatever that's worth. And then, but she also wants to have that name on there. So both firms, you need both BICs, you know.
But once she became a BIC, I'm sorry. Well, once she became a BIC, she didn't have to put Trav Talk. She actually could have put NatO.
That's correct. She could have just put NatWin if she wanted to. She could, because she's affiliated with that firm. That firm has a BIC. She can advertise in the name of that firm. That's exactly right.
Even though she was still working with you.
Well, that would be up to me because I could easily, as her broker in charge, I'm still her broker in charge, say, you can't represent our clients without having our name on the sign. No, I don't care, but I could. So that's going to be an internal thing. Remember, the real estate commission doesn't tell you how you have to do your business. They tell you when you're violating the law. And what they would simply say in that case is if you want to put both on the sign, then both of them better have a BIC. We don't care which one you put on the sign, but whatever one you put on the sign better have a BIC.
Got it.
That's all the real estate commission cares about. Colin asked in the chat, can there be two BICs in one firm? The answer to your question is no, Colin. But I'm not sure if you're asking the question you think you're asking. And that's why I'm always hesitant with questions like that. Every firm, max, has one broker in charge. That's what in charge means. There's only one. But here's what you need to understand. In one group of brokers, there could be multiple firms. In our case, it's me, Seth, Mom, and Leslie. Well, there's actually two firms involved there because there's Trav Talks LLC, but then Leslie has created NatWin Real Estate LLC. And so if you look, there's only one broker in charge for each firm, but there's actually how many firms with that group of four people? Two firms, right? So I think that's where there's the perception sometimes when you say, can there be two BICs in one firm? Yes, there can be two BICs. Two people who are BICs affiliated with the same firm, but you cannot have a firm that has two people in charge of it at the same time. Does everybody see the difference there?
Yep.
Leslie is a BIC and she's affiliated with my firm, but she is not the BIC of my firm. I'm the BIC And she's the BIC of her own firm. And see, here's the difference between the two of us. Leslie's affiliated with both firms. I'm not. I have no reason to be affiliated with her firm. For all intents and purposes, her firm operates under my firm because ultimately every client that NatWin Real Estate represents is actually hiring who? What does it say on her agency agreements?
Trav
Talks LLC, and Trav Talks LLC is compensating NatWin Real Estate LLC. And then NatWin Real Estate LLC is compensating Leslie.
Got it. Okay. That's how that flows.
Yep.
So we do the LLC, like I just kind of manage the commissions and end of the year, pay taxes and deductible everything.
That's
So
exactly
it's
right.
amazing.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So we've talked a lot about what BIC should supervise. So I don't need to go into that. I think the BIC is there to supervise. The BIC is not there to report to the real estate commission. They're not the real estate commission stooge. They're not in charge of turning violations into the real estate commission. They're there to hopefully prevent them from happening and supervise the activities. We've already talked about this question. Can provisional brokers have more than one BIC?
Yeah, no,
No.
No.
Provisionals, no. What about non-provisionals?
yes.
Yes, as long as they have what kind of permission?
Verbal permission from
Verbal permission from all of the BICs. Make sure you go back and look through. That's all in 1.2. Make sure you go back and look through those rules again. That's just a reminder. So just kind of a list here of things, again, that the BIC is responsible for. Make sure all the licensees have active and current licenses. Yes, it is the BIC's responsibility to make sure that everybody in the firm has an active license and a current license. So it's their responsibility to make sure everybody renews their license. Advertising, retaining files, so the transaction files, the broker in charge is responsible for retaining those transaction files. And then trust accounts, if there is going to be. There is no requirement to have a trust account. Not every firm will handle trust money. The firm does not have to handle trust money. And if it doesn't handle trust money, it doesn't have to have a what?
Trust account.
Trust account.
Just account.
Good. We talked about this rule that the BIC has to have access to all records. And how long do the affiliated agents or licensees have to turn those records over to the BIC?
3 days.
3 calendar days.
3 calendar days. Good. 3 calendar days. Very good. As far as record retention goes, the broker in charge is responsible for keeping all records for all transactions for a minimum period of time after the transaction is over. 3 years after the end of the transaction. Okay. 3 years after the end of the transaction.
Travis, I know you don't see this very often now, but if there's a holdback, let's say, for something to be fixed,
Yep,
the transaction doesn't end until that repair is done. Is that correct or not correct?
that is correct. And so that's what, when we say the end of the transaction, we mean the last thing we did on their behalf. So here's what Elizabeth's asking. And you need to recognize this because you're going to be tested on this. Let's say that Howard has represented a buyer in a transaction. Everybody with me so far?
Mhm.
Transaction closes today, September 1 of 2021. If nothing else happens with that transaction, how long does Howard and his BIC have to keep those records on file from today?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years. So September 1 of 2024. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Next January, the buyer calls Howard and says, can you send me a copy of my closing statement so I can file my taxes from last year? Has Howard just provided another service in that transaction?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Guess what resets?
the timeline.
The retention.
That 3-year clock resets, folks. So think of maintaining transactions in this manner. You don't get rid of these records until you literally have not touched anything about that transaction or that client for a period of how long?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years. If they re-enter your life and you help them again, something related to that same transaction, you have to look up something for them. You have to go back, get them something, send them something. The clock resets.
Now, if it's after the 3 years, it doesn't.
After 3 years, it does not. Right. If they call you 5 years after you close and say, hey, can you send me this? If you send it to them, fine. If you don't, if you don't have it, that's fine too. Even if you send it to them, you don't reset anything because it's over. You're outside of that window. Once they're dead, they're dead. Everybody all right with that?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Now we talked about this already, how companies get firm licenses, and that's obviously different than a sole proprietorship. What we have not taught, and we talked about how every firm will not necessarily need to have a broker in charge, but most do. This is just repetitive right here. But there is one position, it's the last thing we're going to talk about today. Last thing we're going to talk about in this section. There is one position that we have not talked about yet. The qualifying broker. Every firm has to have a qualifying broker. There's a reason we haven't yet talked about this person. Quite honestly, they don't do shit. They don't do anything. They don't have a real function here. I mean, they do have a function on paper, but I mean, the truth is, who's doing all the heavy lifting if there is one in the firm?
Broker in charge.
The broker in charge. Who's making all the decisions in the firm?
Broker in charge.
The broker in charge. So who is this mysterious qualifying broker? The
The company.
the best way to describe them is they're an owner of the company who has a real estate license. Basically, in order to own a real estate firm in this state, in order to be an owner of a real estate firm, you have to have what kind of a license?
Active license in firm.
A broker's license. Now, you don't have to be broker in charge of your own office. You can own an office and not manage it. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
So technically, these are two separate jobs. Now, for a lot of people, do you think it's going to be true that in a lot of firms, the qualifying broker and the broker in charge are the exact same person? What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Who do you think is the qualifying broker of Trav Talks LLC?
Travis.
Travis is. That's exactly right. But could there be firms out there where the owner is sort of a hands-off, I don't want to get my hands dirty, I don't want to run this thing day to day, I'll own it, but I want to hire you to be the broker in charge to manage it?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
And in that situation, we refer to the owner who's not in a management position as a qualifying broker. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah.
And while every firm does not have to have a broker in charge, every firm does need a qualifying broker because every firm has an owner. Now, obviously, not all firms have single owners. Some firms like LLCs or corporations have many owners. We just need one of the owners to have a real estate license. At least one of them who is an owner must have a real estate license. The other people don't necessarily have to be licensed if there are multiple owners. But so like as an example, Drew doesn't have a real estate license. He and I could own a real estate company together with me as the qualifying broker, as long as at least one owner has a real estate license, and that person will be known as the qualifying broker. I do want to point out something right here for you. What kind of license must that person have?
Brokers.
Non-provisional.
Non-provisional.
Non-provisional broker.
Practical question application. Can a provisional broker own a real estate firm in North Carolina?
No.
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 Can a non-provisional broker own a real estate firm in North Carolina?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And remember, what's the only difference between provisional and non-provisional?
Post
18
licensing.
Continuing
90
education.
hours.
Post licensing,
Not continuing education.
right? Post licensing. So
Says wrong thing.
practical question. You all are going to get your real estate license in what, October?
Mhm.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Can every single one of you own your own real estate firm by November of this year? By Thanksgiving, could every single one of you legally own a real estate firm in North Carolina? Is that going to be possible?
If we do the
Yes.
post
Yeah,
license,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes,
Licensing.
assuming you pass this class, pass the license exam, and then immediately complete your what?
Post license.
Post licensing. Because here's what you need to understand. There's no experience requirement to be a qualifying broker. All you got to do is get rid of the provisional status. Does that make sense for everybody?
Mhm.
And at that point in time, you can become the qualifying broker. And the qualifying broker has two jobs. Number one, renew the firm license every year. And number two, and much more importantly, who is the what?
Vic.
The BIC, if there will be one, and who is that person going to be? So ultimately, the qualifying broker does not have any management control of the firm, but if they don't like the direction of the firm, can they make one major change?
Yes.
Yes.
What can they do?
They can change the
Hire a new.
Change the BIC.
Hire a new BIC.
Change the BIC. That's the one thing the qualifying broker can do. So I'll give you an example. Let's just say we did this in our firm. Let's say I wanted to step back I don't want to be the day-to-day manager anymore. So we named Seth the broker in charge. Can I,
It's coming.
that's coming. Can I, as the qualifying broker, name Seth as the broker in charge?
Yeah, you own
Sure.
the.
Yes,
Oh.
I'm the owner of the firm. I own
Qualified broker.
the LLC, so I'm the owner of the firm. I'm the qualifying broker. I can name Seth as the broker in charge. Everybody with me so far?
Yeah,
So immediately Seth institutes a policy where he encourages heavily dual agency because he loves getting paid on both sides. Now, that's the kind of policy I would not agree with. Can we all agree that's probably not going to be a Travis type policy right there?
yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Does Travis have any say so whatsoever about that policy, or is that 100% Seth's call when he's the broker in charge?
It's 100% Seth, but you can remove Seth.
That's it. There it is. I can yell at Seth and I can scream at Seth and I can tell people in the firm don't do this, but ultimately what he says will go until I get so sick of it that I do one thing, because it's the only thing that the qualifying broker has choice in, and that's what?
Fire him.
a new one.
Remove the BIC and replace them with somebody else.
Okay, so worst case, if you're being sued as a firm, if Trav Talks Real Estate's being sued because Seth did something illegal, so they're suing everybody who's not tied down, right? Is the qualifying broker also on the hook for the lawsuit?
Depends on what their corporate structure looks like.
Okay,
And that really depends on how well they've set their LLC or corporation up. Yeah.
all right.
You ain't gonna do shit.
Does everybody understand what the qualifying broker's role is here? Essentially, this is the person who the real estate commission simply looks to and says, who's in charge? Who's in charge here? That's all we need to know from you. You own this place. This is your dog and pony show. Who's in charge? Because we want to talk to that person. Now, could the qualifying broker say, I'm in charge?
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
they could name themselves the broker in charge, but you could also have qualifying broker who doesn't want to be in charge. They just name somebody other than themselves. And that's why. So now, practical question. I'm gonna go back to the practical question, and that's gonna be it. See how well you add all of this together. I asked you all a question just a second ago. I said, could you all own a real estate firm by Thanksgiving? And what do we say the answer was?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Could you all own and operate a real estate firm by Thanksgiving?
Yes.
No.
No, we
No.
don't have
No,
2 years.
No experience.
No.
Don't have experience.
Don't have experience.
Don't have the
2 years.
experience. You can own the firm, you can get the firm license, you can be the qualifying broker.
Not the big.
Time to choose a broker in charge, you could not choose yourself because you do not meet the what?
The qualified experience time.
You do not meet the experience requirement. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And so you would have to go out and hire an
A big-
outside person to be the broker in charge at that point in time, which you could do. That's entirely up to you. Now, there are some other slides here in this section. Most of them just kind of mention like what is a sole proprietorship. I recommend you look through those. But that's really all you need to know from this section. You've got a pretty extensive quiz from this section. It'll take you through those broker in charge and qualifying broker rules. So make sure you do that. And